Obviously, one of the primary software programs that the digital sound design and recording community uses are programs which are the DAW, the Digital Audio Workstations, which is consists of a software program which allows you to do MIDI recording, which is recording MIDI note information, then assigning that information to some kind of sound, either a sample sound or a synthesized sound or physical modeling sound and so forth. Plus some kind of interface to connect to your computer. An interface allows you to then take digital to analog conversion and vice versa, analog to digital conversion, so that you can have microphones with XLR plugs on it and so forth that you could plug into the interface, which then converts that into a digital stream, goes into the computer, which your software can then record, manipulate, edit, process, and then send it back out so you can go to the speakers. So the Digital Audio Workstation, there are a number of those that have been around for a while and are sort of standard devices that all recording studios and composers and designers use. So we can't really talk about this world without really talking about ProTools, which has been around since the earlier days of digital audio manipulation. I think the Mark of the Unicorn Digital Performer was one of the first programs that had this capability of taking MIDI and audio data, but also the DigiDesign company, which produced the ProTools. They have since been bought by Avid and have dropped the name DigiDesign, so now it's just the Avid ProTools. So this software is still perhaps the most utilized software program for recording studios around the world, and the fact that you can now pull it onto your home studio gives you almost the same control as the large studio has over the sound design and recording purposes. So I want to give you, if you've never had a chance to look at Pro Tools, I want to give you just a quick summary of that. But whenever we talk about digital audio workstations, such as Pro Tools, I'll also show you the Apple Logic program. But Pro Tools, for example, you have what are called plugins, and that's perhaps maybe the more important part of these. Plugins are different kind of software functions that you can plug into the program and utilize that particular function. So many of the programs that I've shown you here, such as Ableton Live or Reactor, Reason is another very popular program. Many of these can function as plugins into Pro Tools, so that when you're in your mix tracks, you can assign an instrument in that and then have your MIDI notes that you record into Pro Tools being sent to those plugins and play those sounds. So I'm going to show you just very quickly how Pro Tools functions, so that what the main screens are for that, and then show you a plugin that is a full-standing sampler in its own right, which is a Mark of the Unicorn product, which is a Mach 5, which is a very sophisticated sampler, which I'll use that as a plug-in in Pro Tools and kind of show both software programs at the same time. So if you go to the avid.com site, then you can look at Pro Tools and sort of see all the different features here, different things that are going on with recording, composing, editing, mixing, so forth, all things you can do in Pro Tools, which is, it's a very powerful program. And like all these digital audio workstations, they seem to get more powerful by the month. So you're always constantly having to upgrade to get access to those. So this is Pro Tools. Let's now head over to the program. What I've done, I've just pulled up, I'll show you a couple examples here. This is an example of mine which was part of a composition I did a few years ago, which only uses MIDI data that I've recorded into this. What you're looking at are various tracks here again, going across here, and you'll see here the name of the tracks. Each of them has a different set of MIDI data in them. If I wanted to look at these tracks, I can make the tracks a little bit larger. For example, if I want to make it a larger track so I can see what's in that track, you can see the MIDI notes that are there, and here's the keyboard to kind of show where those notes are. You can edit from within this window here very easily. These are just notes. There are no sounds attached to these yet. I have to assign these notes to something else. These are just MIDI streams. But what's great in working with MIDI data in Pro Tools is a lot of the different kind of ways you can edit this information. So if I go up to my window and pull down to MIDI editor, then you can pull up, this is a kind of a note editor which gives you the full screen. I can then take each note, move it around, you can listen to each one, and then I can drag that anywhere I want. You can stretch it out, make it longer or shorter, change the velocity of each one easily down here. So you've got very easy customizable editing for that. You've also got a lot of other editors that come with this. The score editor is very useful. If you do read music, then you can see each of the MIDI notes that you put in converted into a score, a Western music notation score. So this is useful because Avid also now owns another music notation program. A software company called Sibelius was purchased by them. So any of these programs that you created MIDI can easily be converted and sent to Sibelius software program, and has much more sophisticated music notation operations that you can do to that. So, but you can do all the editing here, and once again, you can click these notes and drag them around, stretch them any way you want. Same thing you can do in any of these editors, you can do here as well. So if you do read music, this is in some ways a much simpler way to sort of see what the music looks like as you're working with this. So another editor is the event list. This was one of the original editors that I used to work with when Pro Tools first came out, and many of these programs where you have the moment in the measure. In this case, it's the 6th measure, the 3rd beat, how long each one lasts. You can change that just by clicking on that, change the durations of it, where the pitch is. These are velocity numbers, and then the durations of each one. So you can very customize your editing of that through various kinds of ways. It's all is the same information, but being shown in different kind of editing screens. So they're very, very functional there. So we see here I've got about 9 or 10 different tracks, some information here that are scrolled along here that I've recorded into these tracks. If I go over to the mix window, then you can see each of them. These are MIDI tracks that we just saw laid out here horizontally, but what these are MIDI tracks. If I go up and look at the track list, if I wanted to add new tracks, see the category, we can add audio tracks. So these are not audio tracks, they're just MIDI data in these particular tracks, but I could create an audio track where I could record in from the microphone into a mono audio track. You've also got master tracks, MIDI tracks, and instrument tracks, which I'll show you just a second, but you can also do mono or stereo for that. So an instrument track is what we have here. The instrument track is where you create, like it says, an instrument. And in this case, you pull to the insert menu, and when you do that, well, actually I've created an instrument, a second one where I have nothing in there. So if I go to the instrument track, click on that, then I can pull down to, for example, the multi-channel plugins, and I can make an instrument that would be, or a plugin that would be functioning as an instrument to go into this track. So if this were an audio track, I could be putting in various kind of equalizers, dynamics, all sorts of reverb, pitch shift functions, auto-tune. These are extra ones that I've purchased. But if I go down to instrument, you see here are a list of instruments that I could use as a plugin into this particular track. So we've talked about Ableton Live. Some of these come with the Pro Tools program, such as the DB33, which is like a Hammond organ program. These are other ones that I've brought in. You can see Max can function as a plugin. Reactor 5, Sibelius, many of these are third-party, many of them come with the program. Structure is the sampler program that comes built into the Pro Tools system, so you have a multi-channel sampler that comes with it. But what I want to take this opportunity is to show you Mach 5. So Mach 5 is the instrument that I could use as a plugin. I've already done that over here on this particular program. So if I click on that, we'll see here is the interface for the Mach 5 sampler. I've already loaded in, I think, about 8 different instruments. I could do, I think, up to 16 in this. So these are the instruments, the sample sounds that will be played by the MIDI tracks that I've already recorded into my MIDI tracks over here. But this is I've used this sampler for a number of years and find it very intuitive and very easy to use, how you load in the various samples. But most samplers have similar kind of function, where you can load in the sample. You do have a screen here where you can edit the function in very sophisticated ways. I'm not going to get too much into sampling since we talked a little bit about this, but you do always have filters, LFOs you can assign to that, so you can tweak the sample, you can change envelope generator, attack, decay, sustain, release, so forth. You've got usually an amplifier control or some kind of distortion boxes, so forth. You can control the pitch. You can have auxiliary send, so you can send this particular sample over to your effects processors, which you have a bank of effects processors here that you could pull up and assign those to that. And then you've got some master key group kind of functions you can do here as well. So general kind of sampler, but I can do a lot of the individual kind of assignment of samples to particular keys. I can change those around, assign multiple samples to various velocities on one particular note, which you can do in most samplers as well. So it's got all the different kind of design functions and editing functions that most samplers have. So this is sort of, we don't nearly need to look at this too much, other than here are the various samples that I have created over here that come with a library of, when you buy this particular Mach 5 sampler, you get a very extensive library that you can pull up these samples with. So this is what's being played, and so when I go back over to my edit window here and then just start playing this, it's going to be playing these tracks. Just listen to it for a second. So there's a lot of different information going on in this track. And then you can see here's the MIDI track which has its own velocity information, which is being triggered by those. They're all being fed into, if I look at the output for them, they're all being assigned to different channels in the Mach 5 sampler. So this one is going into the first channel, which if I look back here, the first Mach 5 channel is what's called the religious feminine ahs. That's the female voice sound. That's going to track 1. If I look what's going into this next one, it's being assigned into channel 2, which is then going into this violin sustain sound. So each of these MIDI tracks is then assigned to a different sampler, which all are in this one track here in my instrument track in Pro Tools. So it doesn't take much, and then I've just got a master control out here as well. So if I wanted to, for example, in my master control, go back into my inserts, and if I wanted to have this go through a pitch shift or a reverb unit, if I wanted to add more reverb than I've already got on there, I could have all the tracks which are going in here before they go out to a master are going to a reverb unit. So then you could change the amount of reverb, placement of that, so forth. So obviously you've got a lot of different options here, because this is the plug-in concept where you have different kind of units that come with the software program, or that you can pull in from third-party vendors that you can purchase as plugins to work in that. So you could stay within Pro Tools, but just keep adding lots of different plugins and never really have to leave Pro Tools if you wanted to stay within that. So I could be working in Live, I could be working in Max or Reactor or Mach 5 or Sibelius, any of these programs, and maybe have them function as plugins and still be working within Pro Tools. So that's the sort of the MIDI side of this, if I wanted to have just MIDI tracks. And there's no audio recorded in this particular one. I just wanted to show you sort of how you would record and do trigger synthesizers and different samplers from this. So you're just recording in MIDI data. And when you hit the record button, you'd be playing from your MIDI keyboard to go into this information. So this is just one example of using the MIDI tracks for that. Let me show you, I'll just use one of the demos that come with this. For example, I'll use the jazz session that comes with Pro Tools to show you sort of the other side of this, which is that these are audio files. So these are microphone or sample sounds that have been recorded into this. And let's just listen to this, sort of see how this works. So the same thing, you can see each of these tracks is laid across in your standard sort of horizontal left or right configuration of time. These have, many of them are loops, you'll see. You can double click on them and name them, so forth. You do have a lot of commands. If I wanted to shorten that playback or move it around, you could copy that and then paste it somewhere else, another screen. I got lots of if I move it to shuffle, then I've got more capability to move it around places. So the function is doing this similarly, where you can customize, you can add other tracks in. If I go over here quickly, I can see a list. These are all the different samples, the clips of samples that have been loaded into this. Anytime you do an edit for this, so if I wanted to edit this say, I can go up to Audio Suite and do some kind of change to the sound. If I want to modulate it, add a chorus to it, or embed it in something, add reverb inside the sound file itself, any of these pitch shifting kind of commands. You can do destructive editing, but you do create a new copy each time you edit it. It will make a new copy of it. So if I wanted to go back to the original, I can always pull that into the file somewhere, or I could also pull the edited version and drag that into that to create something new. If you want to import something from somewhere else, you just go into your import. You can import audio from anywhere on your hard drive, or MIDI files from some other file, or video into the program. So many options of things you can do just to import things on your computer into this. It will show up either in a new track or in this clip list here. And then you can just easily drag it into that and start to edit that. So same thing, you can have MIDI files as well as audio files into the same program, and it's very powerful and very easy to use Pro Tools. And I teach Pro Tools in my college classes, and most schools will have some kind of class where they teach you how to use this. Obviously GarageBand on the Apple is a more popular program. But a lot of these have similar kind of concepts that they're working in. So this is Pro Tools, which works on both PC, Mac, and is very universally found. So I'm not going to get too much more into this. It has many more editing functions and things you can do, but it's if you probably know somebody in town who maybe has Pro Tools or has worked with Pro Tools, and it's worth looking at because it is one of the more central and universally accepted DAW programs out there. So that's Avid Pro Tools.
The preceding program is copyrighted by Emory University.